Hello there from the interwebs. Kyle High Club. This is episode 8. It's been a little while since I've done one of these episodes. I've just been carried away with life, work, and doing the MMA episodes. I just really like talking about fighting and kind of get carried away with that, and those have ended up being longer because I'm doing recaps and previews within one episode. So the last one I did was almost 2 hours of me just talking about fights. So I mean, that's plenty enough talking for me. I'm not a very talkative person or sociable person at all, so just doing one of these things and talking to a microphone, although I'm not actually talking to a human being, just literally talking for that long is sufficient. So I strayed away from these episodes. Like I said before, I enjoy talking about fights. And instead of talking about, random things that pop in my head, and main reason why I started this, and to maybe not influence people or even try to sway people, but at least just put thoughts and ideas out there that maybe people may or may not agree with, but give them something to think about, and just make them realize, everything's not always, or nothing's really black and white besides the few things that we've agreed on, like don't cheat, don't lie, don't steal, don't kill, don't rape, those sort of things. But, people still do it. That's the world we live in. It's fucked up, but that's how it is. Don't even know why I'm talking about and that's why I brought this episode, or that's why I started this. Just talking about shit that's fucked up. Everyone might not agree with, but you gotta make light of it. We're either making light of it by shining light on it, or make light of it by joking about it and being like, yeah, it's fucked up, but in this fucked up world, we can still find humor in it. We can still find love and beauty and laughter and happiness. So even though some people, even myself included, might find themselves in a dark place, you can find light. You can find sunshine. You can find happiness. I'm feeling pretty good today. I live in Wisconsin. It's March, is it 21st or something like that? It's Friday. So it's Friday. And also, this is probably the nicest day it's been in, since fucking fall or summer. It's been a crazy winter. It's been worst winter of my life. I've been in Wisconsin now for 2 years, but came like halfway through the winter last year. And it wasn't that bad. I thought it was terrible being from Virginia, but this winter was even worse. It was just cold all the time. But today is, I think it's like 50 degrees. Let me check real quick. Okay, not even. It's fucking 46, and I'm like, wow, it's beautiful outside. I have the door cracked. I turned off the fucking heater. It feels fucking amazing. And it's not even 50. If I was in Virginia, especially by the beach, with the wind coming off the beach, I'd be bitching about how it was chilly outside. But damn, it's nice out. It's sunny. It's Friday. Hell yeah, so it's a good day. Just first off, I just want to add that I mean, not that you might care, but at least for me, when I listen to podcasts, ads are super annoying. It's kind of annoying at the start. You start a podcast and you're like, oh, they start with ads. And that's kind of how mine have been. And I changed my MMA series once where I put the ad right in between the recap and the previews. So that way, exactly, like, I'll be like, okay, this is where we're ending. You can skip through the ad, blah, blah, blah. So I might do that here and these ones too, but I'm going to keep these to an hour more than likely, unless I have things that I really want to touch base on. This is really just a moment for me to spitball and shit on and just explore ideals, thoughts, and topics in today's and even past events. Speaking of today's events, tomorrow I'm going to see Ron White, the hilarious comedian, live in Madison at the Orpheum Theater. Can't wait. I've seen a bunch of comedy since I've been in Madison, man. Madison is a great place for comedy. A comedy club that they have on State Street, it's literally Comedy on Straight, is excuse me. It's a great club. I've gone to a few open mics. I've seen Shane Mouse, his, I believe it was called Stand-Up Science Show, where he did some stand-up. He had some local guys he had his local guy do some stand-up, but then he also brought in two professors from the University of Wisconsin, because Madison is the University of Wisconsin. It's that in the capital. That's essentially what's here. So it's a pretty cool place. But essentially took these professors and just had them explain their work. And then after they explained the work, and it wasn't like supposed to be funny. He's not trying to make these intellects and these professors, try stand-up comedy for the first time. No, they just explained their work, and it was, and then that he would do stand-up and kind of riffed off the material that they presented, and then at the end they did a little Q&A, so that was pretty cool. I saw that there. I was in the front row there, so that was pretty cool because they had a slideshow, and I could actually see, what was on the slides. I can't imagine if you were in the back, because I've been in the back of that room. I saw also Christina Pazinski, Tom Segura's wife. I think I mentioned this before on here, at the same club, and I sat all the way in the back for that. So I don't think I'd be able, I have good eyesight from far away, but I don't think I would have been able to see the details that they were talking about, like on their slideshows. But nonetheless, it's a fucking amazing club. It's just a fun time being there. And dude, there's some funny open micers too, man. Like, I thought about trying comedy, stand up myself, just like get a crack at open mics. First of all, I'm fucking deathly afraid of public speaking. That's probably my biggest fear. I'd probably rather get in a cage with somebody and fight them than have to speak in front of an audience, even if it's like 10 people. I don't know what it is. I think I've grown out of it a little over time, but I also haven't done it since fucking literally my public speaking class in college or some other. No, I did some presentations in business class after that, and like our 300 business project or whatever. But I fucking hate it. I hate speaking in front of people. So that's the main reason why I haven't tried. But also, I went to a couple open mics. I want to see, how not how good are these people, like, judging the talent, but, like, if I saw some people do it and be like, oh, I could do that. But then I'll win, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, I probably saw you see, like, 20 to 25 comedians, and basically all of them are funny, at least 20 out of 25, even if they weren't funny, you could tell people had premises or they thought about it and they've written jokes and things like that. I've been back a couple times. I think I first started back in December. I don't know, but you do start to see the same people doing the same material. But I know that's what comedy is. You work through your same jokes until it looks good and it's like perfect, and you find what works and you keep doing it. But then you kind of see that you can, even though I don't know, I feel like I can tell a couple guys that have been doing the same jokes for maybe like 10 years. But who knows? I don't fucking know. I applaud anybody just like I applaud anybody that steps in the cage, even if you're fucking CM Punk and you suck. He still did it. He'd still probably beat me up. He was a 4-year-old man. But, yeah, just like I applaud anybody that even attempts to step or does step in that cage, no matter your skill level, no matter if you get your ass beat. I applaud anybody that goes up and stands in front of a group of people and just talks, even if it's just an open mic night for 3 or 5 minutes. That's incredibly brave, and that scares the fuck out of me. Like I said, I'd probably rather fight in front of millions of people in a cage on TV, even if I get my ass beat. Obviously I wouldn't want to get my ass beat, but I don't think I'd sign up for a fight. I think I'd lose. But I'm not a fighter either, though. So that's what I'm saying. But yeah, Madison's a great comedy scene. I've seen that stand-up science show I was talking about with Shane Mouse. I think that's how you say it. I saw Christina Pazynski there. Been to a bunch of open mics. Saw Chris D'Elia live at the Orpheum Theater, where I'm going to be seeing Ron White tomorrow. Can't wait. And then I'm seeing Tom Segura there as well. A couple weeks. I think April 11th or something like that. I'm really excited. Should be a fun time. There's also fights on tomorrow, but they're on ESPN Plus, so I'll probably just watch them after I see Ron stand up. I don't know if I'll go out afterwards. We'll see. Last time I went out, I mentioned this before. Last time I went to a comedy show, I went out afterwards after the Christina Pazynski show. Got pretty drunk, but then I slipped and hit my head, and things got fucked up from there. So I don't know if I'll go out. I might have a drink or two, but nothing crazy. Then just come back and watch fights and get stony baloney. But yeah, that's me. That's my life. That's my ranting intro. I guess one little more update. Instead of, I said before, I'd be writing what I want to talk about in the notes on my phone. I'll probably still do that, but it won't be as concrete. Before I was reading off my phone and kind of like switching back and forth between applications, and it's kind of annoying. It's just annoying for me trying to switch between things and not having, what I want to talk about right up in front of me while having, the recording open, make sure that's going and everything's flowing. So I started to write shit down. I bought some notebooks, which I needed to do. When I was in school, I wrote everything down, even if I didn't think it would come up later or I thought it was important. I'd write it down, make sure I wouldn't forget. Because I forget everything. Because most things I don't care about. That's just how it is. But if you write it down, you won't forget. And it's just stupid shit like, I don't even know. Like, what do I ever... I wrote down things I'm going to talk about on this podcast, so that's good for that. I'm going to use the notebooks for that. But also just things like, clean the bathroom, or, get a quarter roll from a bank, or, oh, yeah, I got to still pay this part of the bachelor party, or, hey, fuckface, vacuum your carpet, or, just simple shit. And then I know, okay, when I'm at this times like, oh fuck, I'm bored, or like I should be doing something, I'll go to here and be like, oh yeah, I forgot, I have to do that. So I wrote it down. And that's what I did all throughout college. And I was, not that I was a good student, but I graduated. And I was probably the laziest student in the world, but I got decent grades considering I gave 0 fucks, and did it all by writing shit down and just remembering it later. Just reading everything over right before the test or something like that. Maybe a couple times over. And then you got it. Or, hey, remember you have that assignment due tomorrow. Otherwise I'd forget. I'd get high, play video games, hang out with friends, hang out with your roommates, go to your girlfriends, get drunk, whatever. And I did this at the beginning of my job. I was writing things down, stuff like that, but then things get piled on top, and you just stop writing things down, and you just start doing. You get caught in the momentum of just do. but you don't document it, you're not writing down what you did or you're accomplished, or, oh yeah, I did complete that, but there's this one little thing that I also wanted to attach to it, make it a little better, although it's not really necessary, it's something I think that should be added, or, and then, but that would get lost because the very next day, something piles on top of you and you forget, it's just life. But I find if I write things down, I just keep better track of them, and I'm just more successful, not only in work or schoolwork, but in just life. I don't feel shittily about the things that I keep putting off, because I write them down like, oh yeah, I haven't crossed that one off the list yet, it's still there. Oh, and I write in the notebooks, I write everything in pen, no fucking pencil, man. You write something down, it's permanent, it doesn't go away. It doesn't, even if you scratch through it and say it's complete, or you put that check by it, it's still there. And hey, you'll have a record that you completed it, so hey, even better. Not only do you get the personal satisfaction of actually completing it, you got a physical representation of proof that you did something. It's like working out. It's like getting bigger biceps. Same shit. But yeah. So I write shit down, blah, 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 blah. I know you don't give a fuck. So yeah, let's get into it. There's 16 minutes of nonsense. So talk about things I don't give a fuck about. So I wrote this down like 2 weeks ago, but it was just, I don't know why. I guess I just get in shitty moods sometimes, but maybe I'm bipolar, or maybe I'm just human, or maybe I'm too aware, I'm too observant of the world. I look at too much bad stuff because it's easy to find bad things and things are wrong with the world, because they lead the headlines, they get the most clicks, they get the most, shares, blah, 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 blah. So I wrote this down. So what I wrote down was the only difference between today and yesterday is the Earth's position in its orbit around the sun. And kind of in a logical standpoint, and if in your understanding of the universe as a whole, if you understand that we are just, we're just this some kind of primate mammal that walks around on Earth, that used to come from monkeys and, shit before that. I think we used to be like mole rats, a version of like a mole rat. And way before that, we were single-celled organisms, and before that, there was nothing. It was just a rock. And now we're just people that lives on this rock, amongst other floating rocks, and we travel around a floating, I guess not floating because it's space, but just this essentially floating ball of light and energy that gives life to things. I mean, that in water, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but you know what I'm saying, I think. Essentially, in the large, if you were a scientist, if you were like a astrophysicist, and all you concentrated was on like planets and the orbits and gravitational forces of things and how this affects this or that, or other universes out there, or mirrors, blah, 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 whatever it is, the infinite vastness of space, how big is it? Is it expanding? Is it, in a constant state of expanding and shrinking? I don't know. But in the vast scheme of things, as far as we know, as humans' day-to-day life on a logical, universal big picture standpoint, the only difference is we were the Earth was X position yesterday around the orbit of the sun. And now today it is X plus 1, X plus 24 hours or whatever it is. Whatever the distance that it moves between that time period. And without distance and without time, You can't have one or the other. I'm not going to get into that because I'm going to go down a black hole. I don't know. I honestly wrote that down in a cynical state of mind. I was in a shitty mood. I think it was a little after I bumped my head, and my rib was a little bruised, so I was being a little soft on myself. I wasn't working out, so I wasn't appropriately focusing my stress in the proper locations instead of exerting it through, lifting some weights or going on a run or hitting the punching bag. I would just see friends or even random people I have no idea who they are, on fucking social media, the fakest thing on the planet, and see that, people just saying dumb shit. And the main reason that got me ticked off is just every single day is a national this day, national sandwich day, national shoe day, international biscuit day, international coffee day, notebook day, dick day, what the fuck? And I don't know. I was just like, there's no difference between the days. The days are all 24 hours. And blah, 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 blah. Essentially if you look at it from a computer programming standpoint, the object of a day is always the same. It always has the same dimensions. But at the same time, it doesn't. So now that I'm thinking about it in a more level-headed and positive, focused mindset, every day's fucking different, you fucking idiot. Even if you do the same exact thing, even if you go to work, even if you just wake up, go to work, come home, eat, go to sleep, eat, watch TV, go to sleep, and do the same thing the next day. Well, even if you do the same thing the next day, you're not really. Even if you watch the same TV series, I doubt you're going to watch the same exact episode. You're going to watch the next one, or maybe a different movie. Or the problem at work was different. Even if it's the same exact problem, guess what? It will just be a second instance of that problem. So even though it's kind of exactly the same, it's different because it's a new day. And each day is a new life. And a gift. And although I can get cynical, we all can get cynical and bipolar. No, this life is full of beauty. It's full of happiness. And I guess I get cynical too, is because people almost feel a need to make every day special, which I get. Because it's tough out there. It's tough going to a job that you do the same thing every day, and especially if you don't like it. When I was a kid, I didn't think I'd be sitting at a desk working on computer shit, fixing people's problems that they don't understand. But that's what it is. I kind of like it in a nerd standpoint. I like finding where there's issues with data and where it's missing and why this or that isn't running correctly, or why it is, and then you have to explain to somebody that doesn't understand it. But, I always thought of being a fucking, I always wanted to be a professional athlete, and that was it. And then that time passed, and here we are. I kind of just landed into this. And sometimes you can get stuck in the monotony of life and the rat race, and I gotta pay my bills, I got college loans. Why waste my time doing this or that, or wasting money on trips to go see friends, or a concert, or stand-up comedian you like. It's like, fuck, I gotta save, I gotta hoard, one day, what if I'm in a car accident, what if I accidentally get a girl pregnant that I don't love? like there's so many what ifs, but you don't know until you fucking take that step, motherfucker. You don't know until you stick it in. You don't know what's gonna happen until you fuck that day. until you fuck your life. Don't fuck it up. Try to pull out before you fuck it up. But you're not going to get anything accomplished if you just sit in there, man. If you just sit waiting for shit to happen. Even though, sometimes, patience is a virtue, and yes, you should wait for things, especially if someone does, But I don't know, you just gotta go get it. Go have that go-getter mentality. Fuck the day, honestly, I'm gonna write that down right now. That is going to be the episode of this podcast. Fuck the day. Right? And pussy. So that way, I will never have this podcast put on other platforms. I keep trying to push it. This Anchor's pretty cool. I'm doing these podcasts through this app called Anchor, and this is not an ad, even though I do have an ad talking about how cool it is, but it is cool, and I'll probably play one here shortly, actually. But honestly, it allows me to record, but you can connect to Spotify and iTunes and pull in songs and music and things like that. You can record little jingles. You can do anything. You can record anything you want, slice it together, edit it right there pretty simply. Drag the segments back and forth. It's simple. And then you can push it out through Anchor, and then you can share through Twitter, Facebook, wherever. I wish they had an upload thing to YouTube, but I guess this is just straight audio, so I guess it makes sense. It's not video. Why was I talking about that? Oh, but yeah, they also have a cool thing, a cool option, like a distribution where you can just click, boom, distribute, all to the podcast platforms, and then it will apply your podcast to these platforms, and it's supposed to get you accepted and get you out there. But mine keeps getting rejected. I don't blame them, first of all, but come on. But I understand it. And then I go to the reasons for rejection. They don't give you a reason; they give you a quote possible reasons, and they list a bunch of things. But damn, my bad. Just drank some water and choked on it like a child. But they give me reasons like some of the reasons have been like mention of illegal substances or uses of that or something like that. It was like, oh, well, yeah. Well, that's this entire podcast. It's Kyle High Club. It's a play on Mile High Club. Like Denver, the city, like the stadium. That's what they call the football stadium there. That's not the official name, but that's like the nickname. And also the Mile High Club, as everyone knows, is you fuck on an airplane, join the Mile High Club. I don't think you're actually a mile up. You might be, I don't know. Not a aviator or somebody who has ever looked that up. But so play on that, on getting high. It's also kind of a play on Mile High Club, sports and things like that. But I'm just fucking around. Like, yeah, I might talk about some weed. So I had that. Another reason was profanity. And yes, I'm gonna curse all the fuck I want. But so does everybody else. They have tons of podcasts on iTunes and things like that where they curse. So I don't know why I would get denied because of that. It might be because there was profanity in my description. Literally, my description was Kyle gets high and talks about shit. So that's two things right there that they already mentioned. You're talking about being high. And then also you cursed. You said shit. You said a naughty, poopy word. Would you rather me say stuff or things? Kyle talks about things. And I think I did change the description to that because I was seeing if they would accept it. But it got declined. Well, I don't think I've tried again yet, but we'll see. But the only reason I brought that up is because this episode is going to be called Fuck the Day. And yeah, that will just probably lead to me never getting pushed to these quote-unquote platforms, so that's all right. I'm putting these all up on my website. Anybody can get to in the world. I know nobody's going to be checking my website daily. I don't even go to it. But it's there. It's whatever. It's something. I'll pay for it once a year. It's not much. Hosting or GoDaddy or domain registration. KyleHighClub.com. I own that. I'll probably buy the other domain names in the future. But we'll see. They keep asking me to buy KyleHigh.club. I'm like, probably. But not yet, Sonny. But yeah, the only difference between today and yesterday is literally everything you did yesterday and today. I understand people want to make every day special, make every day a holiday, but and humans kind of need that. That's kind of how we survived for hundreds of thousands of years. We told stories, before there was ever writing or books or anything. Well, obviously you can't have books without writing. People orated. They told stories of their ancestors or of nature or of events, and then attribute it to spirits or natural phenomenon or gods, and then create these mythical things and these stories to try to help guide the future and try to stray them in a path that they went down, and it went this way and maybe it should have gone this way or whatever. They're just trying to pass on advice. It's just like what anybody tries to do with their kids. Most parents, or at least I don't know what most parents do today. I don't fucking know. But I assume most parents don't go to their kids and be like, hey, read all these books. This is what you'll learn about life. Okay, get to it. Peace. No, I like to think that most parents talk to their kids and tell them things, but I fear that's not the case either. I fear now it's just parents just give their kids a screen. It's like, hey, get distracted so you can leave me the fuck alone. I hate my life, so just be distracted, so blah blah blah, so you can hate your life too. I don't know, it's very odd. But why am I talking about this? I don't even know. I have 0 point whatsoever. I'm just rambling. And I guess since I'm rambling, and I'm kind of going to switch gears in the next topics I'm talking about, well, I guess I could stop here and play an ad. Yeah, I'll stop here and play the stupid Anchor ad, say fast forward after this and get through that, and then we'll pick up on a little deeper stuff. Alright, peace. I'll be back. It's not peace, I'll be back. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? I know I did for several years before I actually started. I had so many questions. How do I record? Do I need a fancy microphone? Do I need expensive cameras? Do I need to hire somebody? Do I need editing software? Do I need a studio? Do I need a website to, distribute this? How do I pay for a website and hosting? How do I get people to listen? How do I make money? And I struggle with this, and this morning, all those questions are the reason why it took me forever to just start. And the awesome thing is that Anchor solves all these questions. They answer all these questions. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. It's ridiculous. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise in your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. I'm just in my third episode in, and this is my first ad, and they're giving me $10 for this ad. It's only $10, but it's a start, and it will lead to more. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and aim to make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start in order to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. Can't wait to hear you. So, and welcome back. I hope you skipped through that boring ad. I don't even know what it sounds like anymore, and fuck it. They give me like 10 cents if somebody listens or something like that. I don't even fucking know. Bank account's not even connected to it, so. But yeah, so I recently just watched and finished Narcos Mexico. It's their first season of, doing Narcos in Mexico. It's the fourth season of Narcos overall. The first two detailed Pablo Escobar. And then once he, spoiler alert, was killed on the rooftops, I think it was in Medellin. I can't remember the city, but I don't know. The third season was the Cali cartel. And then the fourth is about Mexico and Felix Gallardo and how he organized the Mexican cartel and, how essentially the war on drugs started today. And how, it was I don't know, it was just really good, it's a really good show. I wasn't too keen to watching it because Pablo Escobar is such a big character and, individual. He was very flashy, killed a lot of people, he did terrorist attacks and things like that. God damn, the actor for him in those first two seasons was just amazing. He killed it. And spoiler alert, he shows up in season 4. Him and Gallardo, Felix Gallardo, the guy that organizes the Mexican cartel, and this season of Mexico is centered around him and this police officer, Kiki Hernandez. I think it's Hernandez. If it's not, I'm sorry. It was a really good show because it showed that, and now we know it's organized, but back then they didn't know that you could organize something like a bunch of, especially mob or crime bosses, individual, it's kind of like the Middle Ages, where there was castles in like every town, and each king of the castle ruled the town as a king, and that was his land, and then the next town over, it was that king's land, and he did whatever the fuck he wanted, and the rules applied there, but not outside. That's essentially how they operated back, I think it was back, I don't know, 70s, 80s. It's during fucking Reagan. And the Just Say No bullshit. The DARE program and all that. Now we know it's all bullshit. But, they showed that this one guy, Felix Gallardo, basically got all these crime bosses, these individual bosses together and made them organize under one roof to create a distribution network for marijuana from Mexico to the U.S., they had a supply. They created a huge-ass fucking field in the desert with top-of-the-scale, and just genius irrigation. And, just complex, essentially. Just a marijuana growing complex for the rest of the world. And especially the U.S. And, they had it. They were shipping it over on planes and also in cars. They found ways to hit it in cars and things like that. And most of the cars that don't check every single vehicle at the border. They can't. It's too many people. And same thing with like shipping containers and things like that. I think most of like 95% of the crates go unchecked. It's probably 99%, honestly. I think most of that shit, not most of it, but there's some of them are definitely going to be containing drugs. Illegal drugs worth a shit ton of money once they make it over here and you sell it. Because people like to do drugs, especially when they got money to spend on it, man. You know, when, as I was talking about earlier, when you're living that repetitive lifestyle and just doing the same shit over and over again, guess what makes it fun? Drugs, alcohol, booze, marijuana, coke, heroin, whatever you're into. I'm really only into weed. Yes, I still drink because it gets me out of that shell sometimes. It releases that extra level of consciousness that keeps telling me things like, hey, don't do that, don't say that. You know, you drink, you just say shit. You say things that you shouldn't. Not that I shouldn't say it, but normally most of the time I'm telling myself not to say anything, so at least I'm talking if I'm drunk. But who knows, it's me just blabbering on about bullshit like I am right now. But it's a cool episode to watch, mainly because you could show that the cartel could get organized within themselves and within the individual, like, quote-unquote crime families or individual operations. But what was even interesting is how you can organize it for the entire fucking country, and how they had protection of what is essentially like the CIA of Mexico. I forget what they called it. I think it was DFS. Something like that. Essentially, you know, because they're making a shit ton of money, they just they get protection from essentially these. It's not, you know, they first of all they pay the local police. I mean, that's easy. The guys that are making, you know, the guys lowest on the totem pole in the justice system, or at least executing justice. You know, in a fraudulent system, a fraudulent country, fraudulent state, it's pretty easy to take a couple $1,000 just to, you know, because a guy tells you to, or, you know, just because he wants you to look the other way while, you know, these drugs get transported or whatever. And yes, they'd hit people and carry out murders and things like that. Obviously awful, but money is money. It's kind of fucked, but everybody has a price, honestly, and you know, they showed that it's very easy to pay the local police, and then they had deals with essentially like the Mexican CIA or FBI. And then it went even further, which kind of blew my mind, is politicians. Which I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but they end up getting involved, and they end up getting their hands dirty with Felix Gallardo. And I don't want to give too much away of the show, but goddamn, the closing scene of that show was just crazy. It seemed like Gallardo was fucked. It seems like the politicians and the United States government were going to go after him. They were going to get him. Spoiler alert, essentially, yeah, I'm going to get big spoiler alerts here. So if you haven't watched it yet, just stop listening. Essentially, Kiki Hernandez, I forgot the actor's name. Michael Pena, I believe. Great actor. Hilarious guy. But he does some drama stuff, and he's great in this role. He's not funny at all, actually. He's very serious. It's a very serious show. You know, it's kind of hard to find humor in. But he did an amazing job. Him and his team that were down there, which was like 3 or 4 guys, essentially, you know, they knew that Felix had organized this operation of weed and stuff, and then it seemed like they also, even bigger spoiler alert, he eventually agreed to deal with the Cali cartel to do coke from Mexico to the U.S. And then once Pablo Escobar found about that, he got pretty much jealous and told him, hey, You're going to do half ours, half theirs when you do that. You got it, pal? Or else. He didn't say or else. Or who knows what they said, but... And in the show, he starts it off with, oh, I don't like Mexicans. And, like, there's a hippo there. And this motherfucker has hippos just in his backyard because he's so rich. And he's like, I don't know, he kind of mentioned, like, he would feed him to his hippo because he doesn't like Mexicans or something like that. And then Felix was like, well, no, you would have already done it. You know, there's a reason why I'm still alive. So what's up? And Paul was like, you're smart, blah, 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 here's the deal. And then at the end, Gallardo's like, would you really fed me to the hippos? And he was like, nah, they don't like Mexicans either. I was like, Jesus Christ. Fucking racist. Racist against their own, I don't want to say ethnicity because I'm from different countries, but Hispanic descent. It's not the same, but there's a lot of similarities. But if you'd said that to them, that's like saying Chinese and Koreans are the same, or Japanese and Koreans are the same. It's just not true. They're vastly different. But the Western fucking cisgendered white males, we just call them Asians. Like, what? There's like 80 countries in Asia. What the fuck? But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, essentially, Kiki Hernandez discovers they discover this field. They find pictures of this field, find out where it is. They show pictures of it to essentially the U.S. ambassadors in Mexico, and essentially through the entire these episodes in Narcos Mexico, the United States ambassador to Mexico and whoever his team were, essentially like the government that's supposed to be helping out these agents in the field, these DEA agents in the field, they give them no assistance. They're just like, hey, that's just how it is here, man. I'm telling you, they're not organized, but like, you know, that's just the way of doing business. But then they present them evidence of this field, and it didn't seem like they wanted the evidence. It seemed they knew it was there. They seemed like they knew everything was going on, but they didn't want to know. But essentially, Kiki and his team, I think his boss actually, his like captain of the DEA force, and it's not really a force, it's like 3 or 4 agents and some secretary people. They essentially said, well, if you do nothing about this, we're going to leak this to the press. Mexican press, and then, you know, that's just Mexico, baby. You know, things just happen. And they're like, oh fuck, so I guess we gotta do something about this. So they're like, okay, let's infiltrate. So they go in there, they infiltrate this weed farm, and they burn it all to the ground, all of it. Kill people, all that shit. And it cripples them a little bit, and it kind of starts a spiral turn of like, oh fuck, we gotta find someone to blame. Obviously, Americans, and everyone wants Felix Gallardo because he's the top guy. He's the top guy who organized this. And so, and actually, at least in the series depiction, without his consent, because Felix Gallardo had made a deal with the politicians and the Mexican government for protection, essentially army protection, from anybody. You know, essentially. And he actually made a deal with them back when to get control of the Tijuana Plaza. I forgot from the guy's name, but essentially he got the okay on the deal, and then they took that guy out. They murdered him right at his home in front of his associate who was trying to make a separate deal. But, I mean, you'll just have to watch the show. And, yeah, essentially they burn that field. Everyone's like, okay, we got to get Gallardo. We think we got him. We think we know where his office is, this and that. They get warrants, blah, blah, blah. They bring in a guy who's like, fuck warrants. Like, we're going after motherfuckers. And he finds him. This guy who's like, fuck warrants. Like, fuck these guys. We're going after Gallardo. We're going to get him. We're going to arrest him. and he gets him, and how the story goes, or at least how they depict it, gets him on his knees, and he's like, here's the handcuffs. He's like, you better tell me everything now, or I shoot you, or whatever. I don't know. And then so he goes, Gallardo's like, I have the tapes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, without Gallardo's consent, the politicians that he made a deal with had kidnapped Kiki, had kidnapped the DEA agent that Michael Pena plays, and essentially torture him for information because they wanted to know what they knew about Felix's operation, because because essentially the politicians and the Mexican government wanted to know if they knew if they were involved. They wanted to know if they knew if the Mexican government was in coordination with Felix Gallardo and these, organized criminals or whatever. And they were, of course, so they're organized criminals as well. They just happened to put on, have a different title in the public's image, and they wear suits. So yeah, they torture Kiki, and they tape these torturings and interrogations, and they ask him, like fucking idiots, they directly ask him the names of the people that are involved. They're like, do you know this person? Have you heard this guy's name before? What do you know about him? Do you know about him and his involvement? And at least as far as the series goes, it doesn't look like he tells them anything. And it doesn't look like they knew. It doesn't look like the Mexican government knew. Or at least the DEA agents knew the Mexican government was in on it. They didn't know it went all the way to the top. But they definitely suspected, but they didn't have proof. It's pretty easy to tell, and I mean, from the viewer standpoint, it was definitely how they were trying to depict the show. So essentially, they ended up killing Kiki because, you just told him the names of the guys that are involved. He's going to go back and tell his comrades, even if no one believes him. Somebody might believe him, and then they might make action. They can't, they just have to tie up loose ends, so they kill him. So now we'll never know what they actually discussed. But they do have tapes, and they taped the interrogations, and guess who has the tapes? Felix Gallardo. And guess who has the tapes of the names mentioned? Felix Gallardo. And so while he, at least in the series, while he's on his knees, and this guy, this essentially Mexican operative who's like, fuck warrants, we're catching this guy because I hate people like this guy. I come from a successful family. I don't need money, blah, blah, blah. I don't need power. I'm good. And I'm going to catch the bad guy. Or at least how it's portrayed. And so when he's essentially sitting there, he's like, dude, tell me everything or I'll put a bullet in your head. So, at least in the series, Gallardo goes, I have the tapes. And I had the tapes of the names mentioned from names of like your bosses and the people you work for. The people who are telling you to come get me now are bigger crooks than all of us. And I have them. I have the proof that they are involved. He's like, I can leak it or you can just let me go. And your bosses will stay in power or everybody will know. And goddamn, the closing scene, I mean, they didn't show him like leaving and like, okay, you're good to go, bro. Like, yeah, we got a deal. But essentially the closing scene was everybody that Felix Gallardo had brought together and organized were in this, basically doing the same thing. They came together and organized and were like, okay, it looks like Felix is fucked. Looks like the Americans and the Mexican government are going after him together in coordination. And then, come to find out, Felix has the tapes that basically incriminate the Mexican government. So then the Mexican government is like, well, fuck. we kind of have to let him, take power. And essentially the closing scene is fucking Felix Gallardo and the fucking military hopping in this fucking luxurious ass fucking meeting spot in like mansion and just taking it over. And I don't know if they killed people. They probably did, probably the guards and stuff. But like the main people, he just like pops in. He's like, "Hey guys, what's up? What were you guys talking about? Are you talking about how I'm done? Well, I just flew in with the Mexican army, bro. I think we're good." He's like, "That was just a misunderstanding. So business back to normal, right? Okay." And basically just laid his fist down. I was like, "No, you guys aren't ring organized. And somebody's not taking over this shit. It's mine." And now I think I'm the most powerful guy in Mexico because now I control the politicians as well. And essentially the season ended. And then they have this little, I guess, outro where the narrator, which I believe is the same agent from season 1 and 2, the white guy, he tells, "Hey, with the killing of Kiki and, basically that whole interrogation process this started the drug war between the United States and America." Or at least that's how they present it. And the main reason I'm talking about it is I don't really believe that story. I think that's the story we're being told. Because honestly, I think the United States government is in bed with the Mexican government and even probably the cartels. Because I'm not saying they're bad people. I think it's really all just about money, man. That is the biggest fucking market in the world. It has to be. What? Is there a bigger market, at least money-wise, than the black market drug dealing market? I don't think there's anything that makes as much money as that. It literally can buy an entire government. And it seem pretty easily in Mexico. And then if you have a steady route and supply of these drugs, and as I stated earlier, you can't check every car, you can't check every plane, you can't check every cargo shipment, and all the other shit we're also shipping to and from China every day, to and from around the world every day. All the shit that we consume, from food to, I don't know, plastic toys to fucking, everything, furniture. And most of it's not made here. Like, we ship all this shit in where we have, what we consider as lesser individuals because they don't make as much zeros and ones than us because they're not propped up by a war industrial complex, and I think even probably a drug. There's a military, technological, pharmaceutical, and black market drug industry. I think that's what we are as a country. I think the black market only exists because honestly most people buying drugs are the United States citizens. And yes, they are in like Europe and things like that. I'm sure they are in Japan, Australia. But this has got to be the biggest market. It's the market that people are most willing to pay. People like to fucking party. There's a lot of abundance in this country because we have it good. As citizens, as normal everyday citizens, you have it good. I can walk down the street, go grab a sandwich, go get a fucking haircut. I can go chiropractor. I can go fucking liquor store, drink myself to death, whatever. I can get whatever the fuck I want. I could sit at home and just type in an Amazon. I'll be here tomorrow or in 2 days. It's fucking amazing. I love it. I love life. It's so awesome. But at the same time, we're propped up by the evil empire, son. And I find this, and I mean, it's kind of fucked up because I don't really care at the end of the day because my life's not affected by it as long as I get to continue to do the things I said before. Go to comedy shows, that sort of thing, enjoy my life, try to meet new people, try to meet friendly, cute girls. That's honestly all I care about. I'm just talking to talk and just have a discussion. I'm not saying these things are true or that somebody should take action against the government, because I'm not fucking gonna do it. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna do shit. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not gonna do shit except talk shit about it. And that's it. And as Americans, that is our right, and I believe that should always be our right. If someone tells me I can't say the things to say, then fuck you. I'll say that. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, because I feel like as long as you're not hurting anybody, taking something away from somebody, or inciting violence, or telling people to hurt people, then I think you should be able to do and say whatever the fuck you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody or trying to instigate hurting somebody. I think you should be allowed to hurt yourself all you want. If you want to fucking slit your wrist or hang yourself or kill yourself, go ahead. I don't think you should, but I think you should have the right. I think you should have the right to inject heroin into your system. I don't think you should. I wouldn't advise you if you're my buddy, like, hey, I'm thinking of injecting heroin. I'd be like, no, don't do that. But I don't think it should be a philosophy. If I catch you doing it, I throw you in a fucking box for years, and you are put in the worst place on earth, and your freedom stripped from you. Like, what? Yeah, that's how I'm definitely going to learn about myself and become a better person, is if you take everything away from me. You know, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous, and I guess if there was one thing I say we could do, just fucking stop with the... It's so simple, and this is why I think... I'm not even saying it's a conspiracy, but like, this is why I really do think the United States government probably does run the black market trade, at least the drug trade. We already know we've sold fucking guns to fucking foreign countries in the past, and weapons and RPGs. Like, we sold RPGs to people in Afghanistan when they were fighting the Russians, because, you know, here's a $500 RPG, shoot down a $5,000 or $5 million helicopter. You know, that's a good price of doing war and business. You know, we are literally just a fucking big ass corporation. We're a global corporation. That's all the United States is. We're primarily focused on the bottom line, and our debts are continually increasing. And our profits might be increasing, but I don't think it is as a country. It's more going towards private businesses, because that's just how supply and demand works. You know, governments don't really sell things unless they sell illegal drugs and guns to other countries, like I was just saying. But then again, it all ends up being into one thing. You know, the private businesses and black market trading and government all will just eventually mesh and flow into one super being, super power, and control everything. And, you know, even when I'm saying it and thinking it, I don't really believe it. But I don't not believe it. I just think it's really possible, and mainly because of how long it's taken to get marijuana legalized, but it's not even fucking legalized. It only is in like 6 states or like 8 states or something like that. Half have medical. It's still federally illegal. I mean, we can drink fucking Diet Coke and alcohol all day and just kill ourselves and just get fat and destroy ourselves, but you're not allowed to smoke a thing that comes out of the ground. I can't even like cook it in things, and like, even though you get a lot higher that way, but like, I can't make, even if it's delusional happiness or fake happiness, you know, I'm not allowed to smoke a thing that makes me happy. So you're gonna. So what you're telling me is you're restricting the pursuit of happiness? That is unconstitutional. Actually, it's not, because that's not in the Constitution. It's the Declaration of Independence. So I guess the government is technically allowed to restrict the pursuit of happiness, which violates the Declaration of Independence and where this country is founded on. And this is the first time I'm realizing that, but literally by even hard drugs, even like drugs like cocaine, heroin, meth, crack, even criminalizing those is a restriction on pursuit of happiness. Although I really don't think those drugs should be legalized to where, like, you know, cocaine's sold at CVS down the street or your Cornerstone or things like that. No. Honestly, I think all drugs should be decriminalized, because I don't think, as I said before, as long as you're not hurting anybody, I think you should be allowed to do whatever you want to yourself. If you want to get a tattoo, get a tattoo. If you want to get a fucking piercing in your eyeball, go ahead. We allow people to get piercings in their tongues and in their ears and shit, and pierce their dicks and their clits and their belly buttons. But we won't let them, you know, snort a little white powder. You know, we would snort sugar in the cafeteria as fucking middle schoolers like idiots, because we thought it. I don't even know what we thought. We were just fucking kids. We're fucking monkeys, man. We just do shit. So how can you tell another grown person they can't snort some salt, bro? It's fucked up. I don't think you should do it. You know, you're not even gonna get high from that shit. You know, if you just snort some coke, bro. But like, you can't tell another grown man or grown woman or grown human being not to do something, because you know what? It's the first thing they want to do. You know, you tell kids all from an early age, don't do drugs, just say no, and then, you know, you grow up and no one's really talked about it. You know, you went through the DARE program in 4th grade and shit, and like, honestly, I don't remember any of it. The only thing I remember was the advice they gave you on brushing your teeth, and that you should brush your tongue as well. And I was like, oh, I never knew that. No one ever told me that. Okay, I'll brush my tongue, because they said germs can get from your tongue to your teeth. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'll do that. Honestly, I don't remember any of the shit they told me about drugs. I remember they probably told me that drugs are bad. Okay? But, that's it. And then I remember, what was the first drug I did? Was it weed? Or did I drink? I remember I remember my uncle came over and he drank a little bit, left like 2 beers in the fridge. And one day after school, I had a sip. I opened it, had a sip, and then it was disgusting. I was like, oh my God, how does anybody drink? Because, I mean, I was a kid. I was in like middle school. I don't even know how old I was, honestly. Maybe 14. But I literally just had a sip, and it was disgusting, and I literally took it was a twist off. So, yeah, if I needed a bottle opener for it, I wanted to know what to do. I'm like, well, obviously, it's childproof. I can't drink this. Fuck. Now that I'm realizing it, they should make all fucking beer pop-offs. There should not be no twist-off. And yes, I like the convenience of a twist-off. But now that I'm thinking about it, if you have a child or you have a fucking curious kid like me at 14, he's like, I wonder what beer tastes like. What's this thing about beer and alcohol? You know, they told me to just say no, but if I have a sip, I think I'll be okay. You know, I've seen my uncle drink it a couple times. He seemed fine. You know, and he drove home, too. But they tell us not to do that, but he did it. Okay. But, you know, if I liked the taste, guess what? I would have finished it. I would have finished the beer, and I would have been wasted. And then who knows where I'd be today? I'd be getting drunk at 14. I'd have a very different story. Instead, I was like, wow, that's disgusting. I'm never going to drink ever. Obviously, that changed. When was the first real beer I had? I remember the first real beer I had was sitting on the back of someone's pickup truck. I think it was my friend Taylor's pickup truck. And it was with Gunner, who is one of my best friends, about to get married here in the next couple months. When I was bachelor party too. But I remember, I think my friend Grant was there, maybe Rayum and Tompkins, but I can't remember. I remember it being his first beer. It might have been his second or third beer, but he had a fight with his girlfriend at the time, which they always got in fights, and she would just bitch him for, like, random things, like talking to a girl or something. And, like, we're 16, 17 years old. Like, what the fuck? It's so crazy how we got caught up so much back in the day. And, I mean, I get caught up with girls nowadays, too, but, like, literally, you get over it, like, the next day or like a week later. I mean, unless you're a special somebody, then obviously it takes time to get over. But it's funny just looking back on how we thought this girl was our world and we'd do anything to please him just so I could get my dick wet. It's fucked up, but especially at that age, man, that's all you can think about. That is all you can think about. And it's hard not to. Once you bust that seal, it's game over, man. There's no going back. It's crazy, bro. I can't even describe it. It's just all you think about all day is pussy. And I remember thinking about that, like, starting at, like, fucking 14, man, like 13. I remember being in 7th grade with rock hard boners, at my fucking, looking at my social studies teacher with these huge ass knockers. Even though she was a little older, like, damn, she was still fine. She was like 50. She was like my grandma's age, but she was still like fine as fuck. And she has some titties. But I'm going on a huge tangent here, but who gives a fuck? And good times, man. We were just so confused. You can't learn anything. I didn't learn anything in that class. I remember, only thing I remember from that class was, what's the song? That song by Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the walls were turning. Didn't start the fire. It was cool, and there was a lot of cool history stuff in that song, so we, like, actually studied the lyrics and, like, then talked about it, and, like, talked about how it was in the culture back then. This professor obviously grew up during that time. He was probably a huge Billy Idol fan, or Billy Joel fan, or whatever, and yeah, that's literally all I remember from that class. I'm sure I learned some social studies things and some history things that, if I talked about them, they trigger my brain. But I also do remember reading, I don't even remember what I was referring to, but I kind of remember reading that, like, or recognizing that my history book was just a fucking propaganda history of America. And it's telling everything that we ever did, like, we're the greatest American, fuck yeah, number one. We kick ass, we've won every war. We're the best. No one can touch us, which is pretty true, in military aspect wise, and for now. But I don't know. I'm just now remembering. I kind of recognized back then, 7th grade. How old were you in 7th grade? 12. I was 12. That history's told by the winners, and it might have been that exact quote in the history book, and somebody said it, I forget who said it, that history is told by the winners. The people that lost the war or the battle, they're dead, so they're not going to write the stories, you know? And then that's how culture's influence is influenced by the winners and people that kill the other tribe. It's fucked, but that's how it is. But, sorry, went off a little tangent there. I started thinking about my first beer, or first drug I ever had, which now I remember I was 12 when I first had that sip, or I was anywhere from 11 to 12, maybe 13, because it was middle school. Then I had my first beer at 17 on the back pickup of my friend's truck. Maybe I was 16. I think I was 17 though, early 17. And then we got hammered that summer, like every other day, no hangovers. You go to IHOP. I get a fucking, what was it? I don't know, some kind of breakfast sandwich, and then I'd also get chocolate chip pancakes too, bitch. It was fucking awesome. And then we'd do it again. All while I was supposed to be fucking weightlifting and getting ready for college football. But whatever, no regrets about that summer at all. It was fucking amazing. And I guess backing up a little bit, the first time I ever smoked weed, I was 16. It was before a junior varsity basketball game. It was Kellum, which was high school I went to, versus FC, First Colonial. And we went to a neighborhood right across the street from First Colonial. Me, a friend of mine, another friend of mine, a good friend of mine, a best friend of mine, doesn't smoke anymore, and a friend at the time, but he's not my friend now. I don't even think he was a friend at my time. He's just an acquaintance, friends of another friend. Yeah, we all just smoked a bowl, and I remember being high as fuck. People say they don't get high the first time, but that's just because they don't know how to smoke. They don't know how to fucking inhale, you fucking amateurs. I was pro since day one. Fucking inhaled that shit. I probably coughed. I can't remember, but I probably didn't. No, I probably definitely did. Remember spraying Axe. I was walking out. I remember seeing a guy right in front of us who parked, once we went back to the school in the parking lot, aired out, and then, we literally smoked in a cul-de-sac in front of somebody's house. And it was dark, it was kind of chill, but, if someone walked out, I'd be like, what the fuck are you kids doing here? You fucking idiots, So dumb, so reckless, back then. But, then we went back to the school parking lot, and, did the whole air out deal, sprayed Axe. But then we saw another guy get out, two dudes, get out of their car and spray some Axe, and my buddy was like, they did the same thing as us. I was like, no way, man. And then we get up there, we get up to the line, for the game or whatever. I don't remember if you had to buy tickets or not, but they got cops there with the little wand, that metal detector, make sure you don't have weapons or anything like that, switchblade, knife, whatever. And I remember being paranoid as fuck, dude. I remember walking, as soon as I walked in the door, I saw the cops. I was like, oh, fuck. I turned to my friend, I'm like, dude, there's cops, man. He's like, dude, just act normal. It's fine. And I was just freaking out in my head, dude. They know. Everybody in this room knows. They all know I'm high. They all know. And I'm just freaking the fuck out, man. I was freaking out. But once I got past, I got my ticket, and then they swiped me or whatever, and patted me down or whatever, and then they just let me go. I was like, I just remember being relieved that I didn't go to jail forever for being high. And I was like, oh, I'm okay. They don't care that I'm not hurting anybody. And I remember walking to the gym, and I thought everybody was staring at me, but you're just so hyper aware, you think everyone's looking at you, you think everything's about you, And I remember just hanging out with, the friend/gang at that time, and I don't remember too much of the game, honestly, but I think it was a fun time. And I had a fun time, and it was a good time. And ever since that day, I realized, everything I ever was told about weed's a fucking lie. I was told it made you a loser, made you lazy, makes you, essentially ruins your life. Which it might for some people. I think it definitely makes me lazy, especially at times. But I'm also just a lazy fuck, dude. I've been lazy forever, way before I started smoking weed. And my dad would tell you that. And my dad's not the biggest proponent of me smoking weed. When I first started smoking, he told me, I'll remember this probably the day I die. Because it's the first time it's not like I stood up for myself, but it's like the first time I actually not even talked back, but it was just like asserted myself as an individual in this world. And just told somebody who was an authoritative figure in my life, hey, this is who I am. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm going to keep doing it. I remember being on the phone with him, and he was essentially telling me I was a loser, my life was going to shit, blah, 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 because I was smoking weed. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, Dad. I'm not going to stop. It helps me. Yeah. So, that's my choice. Can't live with it, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember too much of the actual words, but I kind of remember the energy dying down after that, and him just, accepting that. And just, taking a deep breath and, okay. Probably one of those gritting the teeth, this motherfucker, I want to fucking strangle my dumbass kid to death. I think he's going down a dark path. Because he did the same thing when he was a kid and realized he wasn't really going anywhere. Joined the military, got disciplined, straightened his shit out. Very successful guy. A lot to learn from. Very insightful. My brother doesn't think so, and I don't know if my sisters think so as well, but that's where we disagree. And yeah, I just remember that being not like that was a turning point in my life or anything like that, but it was definitely important as establishing myself as an individual, as somebody separate from not only my father, my family, but from anybody else in the world. It made me, I'm not saying weed made me feel special, gave me an identity. And it definitely did in the beginning, I'm a stoner, man, I'm a pothead, I'm cool, bro, I'm the white Wiz Khalifa, man, I'm a hippie, bruh, walk around with no shoes, man, I want dreads, bruh. I fucking love that culture, I honestly do. I'm thinking about going back into it. Thinking about being a beach bum, man. But then you start to worry about bills and money and food, And I don't know, do you want a family someday? And who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. All I know is I'm going to continue doing these, and I'm going to stop talking about this. And sorry I went on these long-ass personal tangents here at the end, but, that's just how it goes. I was just flowing and just recapping and reminiscing about things I forgot about that were very important at the time, and not only at the time, but have kind of shaped me into the human being I am today. And that, I can't imagine if somewhere along the road, and it's almost happened actually, where I, got caught smoking, a federally illegal substance, and even a state illegal substance at the time, or the states I lived in. Because then I'd be a completely different person. That would have shifted everything drastically, and who knows where I'd be. There's a lot of what ifs, and it kind of there's no sense in going down what ifs, because it just leaves you down a rabbit hole of further what ifs. Because we don't live in what if land, we just live in what is. And sure, it's good to contemplate what ifs, and what if this scenario happens and you want to be prepared, things like that, but you can't prepare for every scenario. As I said earlier in this podcast, the only way you know something will happen, or if that what if will happen, is if you step in there, man. You take that first step. And it's like fucking Robin Williams said to Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. You know, he's so smart, he's bound by nothing. But he's afraid to take that first step because he sees every negative step 10 million miles down the road. And instead of enjoying the journey, he's not even starting the journey because he is so smart that he realizes that all journeys lead to death, or leave the journey to ending or sadness. And, you know, not all journeys lead in sadness, but like every journey ends, you know, whether you're going on a hiking trip or whatever, and, you know, at some point you end it. Some point you got to go back to work, you know, unless you're just blessed and you don't have to work. You know, I think that's all the point that we all strive for. Otherwise, what are we doing? You know, I guess, you know, some people work to make the world a better place, and they have jobs where they can do that. You know, and I would like to work to make the world a better place. I'm just not really in a position right now to do that. I do IT support work for a large credit union insurance conglomerate. So, and I guess, yes, the end users get value out of this, and that they can provide for themselves and their families in the case that a medical or health or even, you know, any kind of emergency happens. You know, they have insurance to back it up, and they can pay for these very costly bills that would cripple them otherwise. And even though the insurance will probably kill or pull them, and the bills will cripple them otherwise, you know, maybe you'll at least give them that mental contentment and go to sleep at night knowing that their well-beings might be taken care of as they pass away. So I understand that, but, you know, and those people might drive some value, and like, I'm not looking, like, I don't need to have concrete value to establish a sense or purpose in this world. I can do that through other means. That's kind of why I'm talking to this right now. You know, and I think we all want to make the world a better place. It's just, it's hard. You know, we get handicapped, we go down career paths where that might not be possible, you know. Honestly, if I had, you know, all the power in the world and could do what I want as far as where my career is right now, and as far as technology, I would like to work on AI. And, you know, I don't know really the first thing behind, I mean, I know AI on a conceptual basis, and that sort of thing. I can conceptualize it and what it can and can't do. I don't know the technology behind it. I don't know how it's coded. You know, I can all conceptualize that and understand it if it's explained to me by somebody that knows that, and if I'm shown the programs and things like that. But right now I don't know it. I don't know the tools. I don't know the languages it's programmed in. I don't even know where to start or where to look. And yeah, I'm actually signed up for some AI training on Amazon Web Services. So I need to do those. And you know what? I'll write that down on my to-do list, because it's on my work to-do list, but then I get distracted by work because I'm working and I don't have time to look at this. So I'm gonna add that, and I'm gonna let this go. This went a lot longer than I anticipated and wanted, but you know, sometimes you get in a zone and you just want to talk, and yeah, that's how it is. It's the end of episode 8. I appreciate all you guys. I love you. Love yourself. Love everybody around you. And good things will happen. Bye.